The second thing, I want to give a shout out to Moms Demand Action in Missouri because they have alerted us to some really dangerous bills relating to gun laws that are currently in the legislature. There are two that are already at the Senate level that I want to draw your attention to, and then there's one at the House level. But the first one is called officially the Second Amendment Preservation Act, but it's better known as the Nullification Act. And it is a very dangerous piece of legislation if it were to pass. It is Senate Bill 39. So if you contact anyone about it, which we're going to ask you to do, you want to refer to Senate Bill 39. And it is an attempt to invalidate federal firearm laws in Missouri. In other words, it would block the cooperation of local and state people, police or agents, from even cooperating with federal agents who were trying to enforce federal gun laws. And it will probably be deemed unconstitutional. And it would be great if someone like Governor Parson would speak out and say, let's stop this because it's unconstitutional, but he has not yet. So it's on its way to the Senate. So we'd like to ask you please to contact your senator and give, it would be the best way is to write a letter. And then second best is to call. And then of course you can also email. But you can go to senate.mo.gov, where you can get more information about this bill, as well as find all of your information for writing, emailing, or calling your senators to ask them to vote no on this very dangerous bill, and give some very personal reasons why you think this is a really bad idea, and just identify yourself as a constituent. And then there is a second one. The second bill is also a Senate bill, 66, which is an anti-protest or an expanded stand your ground law. And it encourages people to use force against demonstrators. Okay, it's kind of better known as the McCloskey Act, I think, but in some areas. But it actually would be okay to run your car into demonstrators. That wouldn't really be against the law if this were to pass. And it wants to eliminate state funding for local police departments, which try to reduce their budgets by 12% or more. And so, in other words, it really would be defunding police who were trying to lower their budgets. So terrible bill. So please, on that one too, write, call, email as quickly as you can to register your unhappiness with those and give your personal reasons why. Okay, so, and then the third one I want to draw your attention to is actually a House bill, still in the House. It's House Bill 568. And it's usually known as the Guns on Campus bill. And it would force colleges and universities to allow people to carry loaded concealed weapons on their campuses. And I don't know about you all. I mean, I was a pretty good kid in college, but when I think of just all the things that came up in college, and you think if somebody could carry a concealed weapon into those situations. So, I mean, if you have a child or a friend or anyone in college, and just think about what it would mean to have a concealed weapon permit on college campuses. And that one, you'd really need to go to house.mo.gov in order to get all your information about your representatives and information about mailing addresses, emails, etc. And the reason this is so important is because there are many supporters in our state of these bills, and they are being very vocal. We have heard that they are registering their vocal support with the legislators for these bills, and they need to hear from us. They need to know that not everyone is in favor of these. And And on those websites, those house or mo.gov, you can, there's a spot where you can even give testimony online, since that's maybe one bright spot of COVID. Since they're not encouraging people to come to the Capitol to testify, you can testify online. And it would really be helpful in that last one, that House Bill 568. All right, so then I'd like to say, if you are the kind of person that likes to follow legislation, even either at the federal level or state level, we have become aware, and you may already know about it, there is an excellent website called fastdemocracy.com. And if you just go to fastdemocracy.com, you can register there, and then you can ask for alerts or updates for bills by category. Say if you have some special categories, environment, gun laws, voter rights, whatever, you can register your interest, and then they will send you alerts. I registered the other day, and I've gotten daily alerts on things that are just, I wish I had time to attend to them all, but I would urge you to go to that website. And finally, I just want to thank all of our members and other interested Democrats for being with us tonight. And we would love to have you join us as a member. And if you would like to join us, you can go to our website, which is www.chesterfielddemocrats.org. And you can join right there. And for those of you members who may not have renewed for 21, please, you can do the same. But if for any reason you would rather pay by check, just email me. My email is Marek, M-A-R-E-K, Kathy, C-A-T-H-Y, Marek Kathy @gmail. So thank you so much for your time and your attention. I'll turn it back over to Maureen.
Thanks, Kathy. I know that Michael Keene has been having internet issues. We'll introduce him next month. He's our new committee man since Brian had to move just outside the Chesterfield Township city limits. And so we'll have him introduce himself next month. So you do have a new committee man, and we still have our committee woman, Kathy Paulsmeyer. So now our next part is we're going to have a short presentation in our efforts to let people know about local agencies that they may want to physically volunteer or to help support in some way. We are inviting for in our meetings now a short presentation for that agency to tell about themselves. And today we're going to have a presentation from Erica Williams from A Red Circle. A lot of you have already heard of her, but now you can see her. And for those who haven't, you'll be able to learn about A Red Circle. Erica holds a BA in Paralegal Studies and an MBA, both from Maryville University. She's working on her PhD in Public Policy and Administration from Walden University with a concentration on policy analysis. Erica founded A Red Circle in 2017. It exists to promote community betterment in North St. Louis County through a racial equity lens. She will tell you what A Red Circle is and what they're doing to help the communities and the people they serve in North County. So Erica, you are on.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, anyone. Hi, Holly.
Hey, Erica.
Thank you so much for having me tonight, Maureen. There's so much going on. So I will be brief about A Red Circle and the people we're helping. So as Maureen stated, we work in North St. Louis County. So that is the region that, surrounds Ferguson, Florissant, Jennings, Wellston, Delwood. It is a predominantly African-American, Black community, lower income. And so we started out, when I first started A Red Circle, just working on projects to actually better the community for the people who live there, because I've never felt that it was fair, just, or equitable that people who live in a region have to travel outside of the region to get the good things that they need, like places like good grocery stores and good school districts. If I live somewhere, if I'm paying taxes somewhere, then that should be the place that I build up. And so fast forward, we've kind of like found our niche in healthy food access, education justice. We do a lot of work in civic engagement because we also believe that in order to make the changes that need to happen, we need to be engaged. We need to know who's running for what office, what their issues are, how to vote, when to vote. Um, Things like if you are a past convicted felon, you can re-register to vote, and you don't have to not vote ever. Oftentimes, when I'm out um, registering people to vote, people don't realize that. They think because they had some trouble in their past, they can never vote. And so that's a part of the education that we do in the civic engagement realm. And then we also work to incorporate the arts in our region. One thing about the arts, it helps with mental health. It helps with sustaining the community, making things better for the region. And oftentimes, when things are happening around the arts, North County is not included. There's a lot of like arts fairs and arts festivals and jazz festivals and things like that that happen all over the region, but not in North St. Louis County. And so oh, that is the nutshell of the work that we do. We started helping families with COVID-19 relief in 2020, in March of 2020, exactly. Taking families things like groceries and hygiene products, cleaning supplies, diapers. We also instituted virtual tutoring for the children. We did a mobile education and resource fair. So we took school supplies to families since they couldn't come out to the events where they normally come to get school supplies. We packed up backpacks for 160 students in North County and drove it out a Saturday and a Sunday last year. That was a lot of fun. We have a lot of volunteers to do all kinds of things. So we also have gardens in North County. We have an urban farm in the Pine Lawn region. And then we have a smaller community garden in the village of Riverview. And what we do at those different places is we teach about growing food. We teach about the STEM behind growing food, plant health, soil health, organic growing, things of that nature. So you're welcome to come garden with us, when it gets warmer, obviously. We also teach about eating healthy and the importance of eating healthy. One of the things that, really became prevalent and exacerbated during COVID-19 is the rate of deaths for Black people who got it versus white people. And it wasn't because of COVID-19 itself, but it was the underlying health issues, the underlying environmental issues that are prevalent in the Black community. And so we teach about eating healthy, but not only teach about it, we provide the food. Because if we just went around and started, talking about eating healthy, but then a family looks outside their door and they see a convenience store, a liquor store, a dollar store, then we're not really doing good work for the community. So we provide the food that's necessary to eat healthy, to change lifestyles. This spring, starting next month, we're launching a food and justice fellowship for youth in North County, age 19 to 26. This will be a paid fellowship, and they'll get to learn about food and STEM, equity and justice in the food system, and business and entrepreneurship. So they'll get to learn about careers in agriculture, careers in nutrition or dietary, restaurant ownership, and things of that nature. They'll get to learn about, following policy and following what types of bills are out there to help create, more equitable food systems in our region. And they'll also get to grow food with us. They'll get to work at the farm and at the garden. We have an affordable farmers market that we were able to start in 2019. That is on hold, obviously, because the space where the farmers market is located is not set up for a drive-by mobile food stand. But at the space where it is located, we'll be providing meal kits to families from the food that we're growing. So we're growing things like dark leafy greens and onions and garlic and peppers and herbs. And we'll have some recipes in the meal kits for families. We'll do some Facebook Live cooking demos for families. So we'll make it, fun and meaningful within this virtual space. So a couple of different ways that people can get involved with A Red Circle. One, you can always come and garden with us when it gets warmer. Um, Garden work days will be on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesdays at the community garden, Thursdays at the urban farm, and on certain weekends as needed. Like when we have big group projects, then we'll open it up to the weekends. The first big weekend day at the community garden is March 13th at 10 a.m. We're going to be building a greenhouse and moving some of the seedlings that we've already gotten started from our Wellston office. They're under lights right now. We'll be moving them into the greenhouse so that we can get some more seedlings started for the next round of seedlings within the space. And then at some point, like, April or May, we'll get those transplanted. That'll be another work day. The other work day in the urban farm in Pine Lawn is April 10th. And that's the day where we'll be building up the garden rows. We're actually going to be doing some in-ground planting at that space and planting potatoes and possibly cauliflower. We're still looking to see how that's working. But we're also looking to grow our board. If anyone is interested in serving on the board of directors of a grassroots local organization where you will get to really get your hands dirty and do some good work in the community, let me know and I'll send you an application. It's short. It's just basically tell us about yourself and your interests and why you want to join a Red Circle. You have to care about racial equity and you have to care about the people in North St. Louis County. Sometimes we've had people who have served with us and they didn't do their homework. And so some of the things that they said around me was kind of like, okay, you don't belong here. So you have to care about the people. You have to understand that racial equity is not just reading about it, but it's actually being within the space and seeing, firsthand what years of disinvestment in a region as large as North County has done over the years. I mean, it has impacted the tax system in terms of sales tax revenue, um, real estate tax revenue, property tax revenue. It has impacted the education system and it has impacted the food system, which is why those are our three biggest areas where we focus because we want to educate not only the people in the region to create opportunities for themselves, but also to educate the people outside of the region so that when we're looking to, branch out and offer ways to invest or to, come into North County, people know exactly what they're getting into. And then finally, there's always, donations. I would be remiss if I got on this Zoom and did not say that you are welcome to donate and your dollars stay local. Your dollars stay right in North St. Louis County. Just yesterday, Holly shared a fundraiser for us yesterday for this mom. We learned in Ferguson, she has two kids. One is autistic. And, let me backtrack. Because of our COVID-19 work, taking the groceries and things, we've been able to get to know families on a more intimate level, not just about, teaching abstract issues about eating healthy, but actually learning who the people are who are in need. And one such family we learned about was in Ferguson, two kids, one was autistic, and Ameren Electric cut off their power in the dead of winter during a global pandemic, during the school year when kids are trying to do virtual school. And so she had been trying to get in touch with us, but through the Facebook page, STL Mutual Aid. And that page is kind of more so for us to put stuff out there, but we don't really check it for messages. She was saying that her power was off. It was cold in their house. They had one blanket. They had ran out of food. She had been out of work since June because of COVID. And thankfully, she just got a new job. She actually starts tomorrow. So her electric bill was $361. And shame on Ameren again for cutting off their power. So we were able to raise over $500 yesterday. So we got the power turned back on and we were able to buy her a monthly bus pass so that she can get to work and make the money that she needs. And so we also offer virtual tutoring. And so if her kids right now, thankfully, they're doing good in school, which is awesome. But, those are the types of stories that we hear. It's not just a, rallying cry for the general racial equity, but finding out who these families are and what their needs are. And so when you donate to a Red Circle, Since we are a 501c3 organization, you can write off your donations with, on your taxes if you itemize, and your dollars stay right in the region. Everything we do is local, and you can get to see the stories and the testimonies of the people who you help. And you'll get to see the food that we grow. You'll get to see when kids are doing well in school. You'll get to read our stories on Facebook and other social media. So that is a Red Circle in a nutshell. You can visit a redcircle.org. There is a couple of different links on there about us. There's a link under there about in the media, which will kind of let you read some stories about, work that work that we've been doing over the years. We were featured in the Maryville University Spring Magazine, I want to say last year. Yeah, that was a really good story. That's my alma mater. Um, you also get to learn about our programs and our projects. You'll see the donation page. You can sign up for our newsletter, or you can just sign up to be a volunteer. And I send out a monthly volunteer newsletter at the beginning of every month called the Volunteer Monthly. And then the company newsletter goes out every quarter. So you won't get inundated with emails volunteering with a Red Circle. You will if you follow us on social media, though, because I love to post on social media. So, but we're just really, really thankful and grateful for the work that we've been able to do. We've been able to um, get some funding over the years so that we have 4 staff people. Now it was just me at first doing everything on a volunteer basis, but now we have 4 paid staff people, including myself. We have space in our Wellston office where we can store food and hygiene products and cleaning supplies and school supplies. We also have 2 stand-up refrigerator freezers so we can store produce and meat. Let's see, what else? Oh, this
Actually,
year we're not doing, oh,
actually,
say it one more
I
time.
think you've given us a really full,
Oh,
really
good,
full
good.
description.
I was gonna say, we're not doing voter registration this year,
Yeah.
unfortunately, because the drive-up model is too cumbersome in our region. But we are gonna be doing some like videos. I have a TikTok. I won't be dancing, but the young people on our staff will be doing some videos about voting and civic engagement, how to find your lawmaker and all those cool things since they really stopped teaching civics in school. So we want people to stay informed, to stay engaged.
Great.
So that way, come 2022, when hopefully we can get out there and talk to people and register voters, we'll have increased voter turnout. So that is a Red Circle in
Thank
a
you.
nutshell.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And I had no idea how much work you were doing, and you've done a great job. And hopefully some people on the call will find themselves moved to help you out.
Great. Thank
So,
you so much.
okay,
Have a
thank
great
you.
rest of the meeting.
Thank you. And so now we'll move over to Holly Reagan. Holly Reagan is the founder and president of River Rat Democrats, an organization born out of the 2018 election cycle. River Rat Democrats is focused on helping find Democrat candidates for office in what has become too red and too many districts in Missouri. They connect them with resources to run a campaign and fight the idea that Dems don't live here in those rural areas, because there really are a lot of Democrats. They use deep canvassing to gain insight into why rural voters vote the way they do, and use that information to connect with them to help them understand why Democrats and our policies are the best options for what matters to them. So I'm going to bring Holly. The best way is when we're ready for Q&A is to do the raise your hand. It's kind of hard to keep track of all the chat. So you can put a question there, but it's probably going to be easier for me to look for raised hands. And with that, Holly, you're on.
Awesome. Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. I actually really love that you had Erica and a Red Circle as the featured on our monthly thing, and that the title is what it is with Sugus, what it is and why it matters, because it stands for show up and give it. That's what we do. That's what you have to do. And that is, Erica and a red circle are a really good example of what that looks like in her community. A lot of the same issues faced there in North County, with problems with there not being good jobs for folks and not access to healthy food. Poor folks out in rural Missouri have the same issues. That's a place where we can connect. And when I met Erica several years ago, when I first jumped in with both feet into the activism world, saw what she was doing there, it was really important, and that it translates out to where I'm at too. So I support her and she supports me, support each other's communities. That's what you have to do. So basically, River Rat Democrats. That is what we are. That's who we are. That's where we're from. Basically, I grew up on the banks of the Missouri, town called Located, Missouri, where being a river rat is not an insult. We're proud of that. People on the call that know me can definitely testify to the fact that I'm proud of my roots. I'm proud that I'm country. I'm proud that I'm a hillbilly. But I'm also a proud progressive and activist. Still waiting for that, George Soros check to come in. I haven't got that, but it's just about not being afraid to say what you believe, and understanding that sometimes, even though it might feel like you're the only where you're at, especially in the rural area, you're really not alone. So what we try to do is help connect people. Folks,
Holly, I hate to interrupt you, but you're kind of fading in and out. I'm not sure. Yeah. Because you get real quiet.
Hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just hold it up here. I'll just weird things.
Great. Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, thank you for letting me know. One of the things we do is try to find people to run for office and connect them with the resources, because those aren't always easy to find. Connecting people with their local county committees. So like the internal structure of the Democratic Party, where the decision, if you want to have an effect on what the party is doing, you've got to be involved with the places where the decision. So show up and give a shit means showing up to the meetings, showing up and talking to your neighbors are uncomfortable conversations. Events, just making sure that you are visible where you're at. Even if you might be the only person in a Democrat hat or a Democrat hoodie or whatever, letting folks know out there. One of the things that I did when I lived in Marys County was we started actually having the Democrats have floats in the 4th of July and stuff, which seems really small and like it's not, who cares, float in the parade. But I had the lady at the gas station in Bell, when I walked in my Red Democrat shirt, about jump across and hug my neck, because I asked her if she was going to come to the parade because we have a float there, and she was like, "I moved away from here because I thought I was the only person out here who felt that way about things." And it's so good to know that I'm not alone out here. It's about making sure that people and not being afraid to do that. Because one thing we found in like the deep canvassing conversations that we've had, which I'll touch on more, is that a lot of these Republican folks, and I'm not even going to touch on the QAnon crazies, because there's some people who just need help, and I'm not beating my head against them. But we do have neighbors that are principled Republicans. So we can agree on some things. Like, it's one thing to disagree on whether we should spend our tax dollars on fixing potholes or fixing. That's a completely different argument, discussion than some of the folks are having. I just don't waste my time on crazy. Not right now. But you can't also just write off that all of your conservative neighbors are QAnon crazies. You have to be able to talk to them, help them see a lot of the things that they're worried about, we're worried about too. Translate how Democrats and our policies are actually the most effective ways to help them achieve things that they were about getting done. So one of the things that I do want to talk about is bridging the divide, because there's the divide between the Democrats and the Republicans, but there's also the divide between rural areas and our suburbs. So Brian, if you could throw up that graphic, the one that's the red wall. Let me know when you've got that up there. Okay. Okay, so down here this was the Medicaid expansion. And everybody saw the one down there in the corner, the yes, no by county. I mean, that looks super overwhelming, and like the only place the Democrats live is Columbia, Kansas City, Springfield. But then you look at the bigger graphic and it tells a lot different story. So basically what that is the size of the bubble translates to the number of votes. And the blue is how many people voted for it, and the red is how many people voted against it. And obviously, in the population center, there were a lot more people who voted for it than people who voted against it. But if you also look a little closer, in most of the rest of the state, those blue bubbles, just a little tiny bit more red around the edge. So it's not the hopeless situation that it seems like. Medicaid was a super close, I mean, too close for comfort for sure. But that graphic, I think, is for people to understand that there are Democrats and people who support what we stand for every single part of this state. They are not as outnumbered or as hopeless as what people want to convince them. A lot of times the reason why people vote the way they do down there might not make sense to some of us that live in different areas, but when you're able to go have conversations, dig deeper and figure out what's going on. Then that also translates, Brian, if you could throw up that moving the needle graphic, making sure that we have people that are running everywhere so that they are giving people the choice to vote for Democrats, people that are putting the message out there. We have, State Rep LaDonna Applebaum on with us tonight, and then we've got Jess Piper. Okay, Brian?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it.
Oh, it's okay.
It's just a preview mode thing.
That's okay. I'll touch on it when it comes up. But we've got, Charles West is on here. He ran for Congress in CD6, which is basically the northern third of the state. People write that off as just hopelessly red, but it's not. He cared enough to show up and give a shit. Head first into the that is running for office for a lot of people in a lot of areas. Jess Piper is running in the first House district. She's got that super sweet rural progressive T-shirt on that her sons made. Exist. It's a thing. But yeah, it's about these are folks that are running in areas that a lot of people think is not anything. But when we write off those areas, that means that for sure would vote for us don't get the chance to. And the people who might be able to, like Republicans, might be, I like to call them Eisenhower Republicans. Like they're people that we talk to and have actual policy discussions that will vote for us because they're just as sick of crazy as everybody else. You've got to give them the chance to vote for Democrats. You've got to get Democrats putting our message in front of those people. And it really does make a difference. Also understanding, like, yes, the goal is to win. But the goal also has to be understood that you have to move the needle, and that's not something that happens. A huge thing that happened this year. Everybody likes to talk about what happened in Georgia. flipping those Senate seats down. That's have a chance, half of what we all hope we'll be able to accomplish if that hadn't happened. But that happened because people like Stacey Abrams and her group and several others have literally spent the last 10 years working their butts off. Register voters.
Is that the one you're looking for?
That's the one I'm looking for.
Oh, sorry.
This is actually, this is from a special election in 2019. What this shows, these are all, with the exception of the House District 97, these are all races that we still lost. But just because we lost that seat, we didn't win that seat, doesn't mean that we didn't. What you're looking at here, like HD 129, for instance, it shows they picked up like 5% more votes for the Democratic candidate than what they got in the 2012 presidential. And then picked up like 25% more Democratic votes for the House candidate than what voted for Democrats in the 2016. All four of those, even though we only picked up the one seat, all four of those show that we moved the needle, and we moved the needle a hell of a lot. Just have to find people that step up and be that voice. Have to find people that step up and help support those people. And that's a lot of what River Rat Democrat. I will tell you, everybody that is on the board of our organization has run for state rep, state senate, or Congress, except for me, actually. I'm the only one that hasn't run for any of those offices. And that's just because I'm more of a behind the scenes support. So with that, part of being able to flip the needle and flip, understanding that we have to stop talking at, start listening.
Holly, Holly, I'm sorry, I'm to interrupt. I'm tried everything on my end to see what we could do about your connection. You sure I know you're hardwired to your laptop. Is there any chance that connection is a little loose or anything? Maybe just your mic. It's faded in and out.
Crappy mic. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
Let me unplug it and see if that'll pick up. Hang on.
Scary. That's scary, but okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Let's try
Is it bad?
No, let's go ahead and try. It's just, let's go ahead and go back to it and see what we can do. See if it's even better now. Okay, thanks.
Okay. So yeah, basically what I was starting to say was we've got to stop talking at. We hear a lot of times that, because you see pictures like that red wall where it's like, what on earth is wrong? Why would the people that need the health care the worst vote against the program that's going to give them the health care? A lot of it is the messaging. We know the Republicans pour billions of dollars into this information that then they speak out over the airwaves and in the newspapers to those areas to get them to vote against what we think is their best interests. But the secret is talking to those people and having them let us know what they feel like their best interests are. One of my favorite stories that I like to tell people is when we went and worked with, can you hear me okay? Is this working?
It's a little better, I think, maybe.
Okay. Let me try. All I have is earbuds with microphones. I'll just talk really loud. Does that work?
A little better, but it seems like a fading in and out issue, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm sorry, I can hear you guys fine. When we participated in the deep canvassing project, that was a joint effort between several groups, but Missouri Rural Crisis Center, Planned Parenthood, Jobs with Justice, Missouri Faith Voices. There were a whole bunch of groups that sent people out into areas like West Plains and knocked on doors that Democrats and progressives and people had not knocked on those doors in 20 years. We got told that multiple times. One of my favorite conversations that I had was 2 hours at this person's table when, good, glad to hear it's much better. When he answered the door, he literally had like a 72, like the most enormous television I've ever seen with Fox News on. And it was just like background noise. And he answered the door, and I had on my MRCC shirt, didn't have anything, like I wasn't there for a political party. But he answered the door, and I said, hi, I'm Holly. I'm here with Missouri Rural Crisis Center. We're just out talking to folks about what you're concerned about, taking that information back to the legislature, and just, giving you a chance to have your voice heard and talk about what you're worried about or what you're concerned about. This man was like, I'll tell you what I'm worried about is these damn communist Democrats. I hate them, blah, 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 and was just going off. And I was honest with him. I was like, well, I'll be honest with you, sir. I'm a Democrat. I'm not here on behalf of the party. I'm not here to try to convince you to become a Democrat. I'm just here to listen to what you're worried about. He let me come in his house. I sat down at his table for 2 hours. Listen to that man go off, and I'm not going to lie. There were multiple times that I thought I about bit my tongue in half because I had to keep from being like, are you kidding me? So full of shit. Like, but you can't do that. So, but the best part of that was when I finally got up to leave, stood up, and he shook my hand. He said, you know what? Maybe all you Democrats aren't that bad. That is a win. Like, it feels so small, but if you had been at that table with me, you had been there 2 hours before when I knocked on his door, you would know what a big win that could. Even if we're just planting the seed with somebody like that, because he's one of those crazies that I'm like, I'm not wasting my time on him, but I was already there, But being able to plant the seed in that person means that we will be able to reach bigger seeds in people's minds that don't equate Democrats with communists or socialists or other words that they don't understand, and they use socialist programs, whatever. That's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, basically what I'm getting at is you have to really be cognizant of not talking at people or talking down to people or telling them what they should be doing. Get better at listening to people that are in those areas. Especially if you have fellow progressives or activists or Democrats or whatever, like-minded people that are in that area doing the work. Listen to those people. Like, it's not our job to go everywhere and try to fix everything how we think it ought to be done. Like, I'm not going to go to North County and tell Erica what she should be doing for the folks in her neighborhood. But I'm going to send money when I see that she says they need to raise money to get this mom's lights turned back on. And I'm going to go help when they've got plants that they need to get to the ground. And I'm going to ask her what I can do to support the efforts that she's doing for community, just like she will do for me. That's a big part of it. Is that's how you bridge the gap between different mindsets and people in different areas who think that we have different problems because our neighborhoods look different, but the problems look the same. And that deep canvassing goes to collaborating too. Like, a lot of times, I find that we have so many people, and I'm guilty of it myself. I'm a hardcore stereotypical Leo. So I'm very much the spotlight person who wants to be, this is what I think we should do. But we have to do better and be aware of being able to work together. And that doesn't always mean you have to be the person running the show. Sometimes your role is to sit down and let somebody else that's familiar with that community, person that's in charge, and you just back them up. For instance, Erica talked about racial equity and the things that fight to make that happen. when the marches happened after the Stockley verdict. Sorry, my light just went out. I went and marched in West County because Corey and Bruce and a lot of the people that I knew up there said that they needed backup. So I showed up because I know that if I said I needed backup where I was, they would come and do that for me. So it's again, just showing up for people like you would want them to show up for you. Another thing that I want to touch on is I think people make the mistake of assuming things about areas that they're not familiar with. Like a lot of people assume that when we talk about reaching out to rural Missouri or rural voters, that we're just focusing on white Trumpers. We're not. There are a lot of non-white folks that live in rural areas and their voices matter just as much. Yvonne Reeves-Chong is a good friend of mine that just ran for state house in Fort Leonard Wood area. And that area has, thank you, Nick, my light. They have, it's like a 25 or 30% minority population there. And she did really good in her campaign out to folks that historically had just not been reached out to there. People just pretend like they don't exist out there, and that's not the case. The other thing to be aware of is make sure, like, we're out here, like pretty much every conversation that we have with our neighbors, because most of them are Republicans, is uncomfortable. But we have them. And I hear a lot from those folks, like even when they will say, I don't agree with you, but I respect you because you'll stand up for what you believe in. And being able to have those, like, I do it over, like, when it's not COVID, obviously. I literally wear my shirt to the bar and talk about river rat Democrats and how more people are that than what they probably think they are in rural areas over a game of pool or a beer with somebody that I've never met before. And it happens a lot when I'm actually able to do that, that people would tell me, like I had one lady at a bar in Hartsburg who flat out said that she's like, my mom and dad said we were Republican. We were pretty well off. I've always voted Republican, but like literally everything that you say you believe in, I believe in. Holy crap, I think I'm a river rat Democrat. And I'm like, yeah, you are. Like, it's a thing. There's a lot of us. Welcome to the family. But talking about having those uncomfortable conversations, I need my suburban and urban neighbors to have those conversations with their neighbors too. One thing I can tell you is the money that these Republicans are getting not coming from the rural areas. Ain't nobody out here got it. We know who is funding Republicans. It's people like Humphreys. I can't right now, but y'all know who I'm talking about. But it doesn't matter where you're at. Don't be shy about where you stand on things. We have every bit as much of a right to stand up for who we are and what we believe in, and make it known that we are here. We're not going anywhere. Wherever we're at, rural Missouri, suburban Missouri, urban Missouri. Supporting people, the work, like I do as much as I can. There's a lot of people doing a hell of a lot more work than me. Elon Gross is one of them. I'm so glad that he's going to be the speaker next month. I will definitely be tuning into that. Make sure that you are supporting folks that we have right now up in Jeff City, in the state house and state senate. Like, bless them, y'all. They go in there knowing they're going to get their ass kicked every day, because that's just what it is for minority. But they still show up and fight every single day for us. So seriously, if you've got $10 to donate to their campaign, that if you've got 10 minutes to write them an email and let them know that you appreciate what they're doing. You know, pay attention to the social media feed. People like LaDonna, Peter Meredith is a really good one to keep an eye on because he posts a lot about things that are coming up in committees. You know, showing up and testifying. You know, things that affect you or that you have experience with. You know, I've testified on gun legislation, and I've testified on gun legislation as somebody who is a gun owner. And I'm sick and tired of people like Nick Schreier trying to paint it like anybody who is okay with things like universal background checks is a gun grabbing commie. No, I like my guns. I'm not coming for your guns. I don't need them. I've got my own. But I also understand that the best way for me to keep mine is for me to make sure that people that are going to be doing school shootings and other dumb stuff like that don't have access to them. It's about making sure that you don't let people like Nick Schreier do the narrative for us. Like they try to define how we are, and it's like I'm a Democrat, I'm a liberal, I'm a progressive, I'm all of those things that they treat like it's a dirty word. But I'll also outfish, outweld, outhunt, outdrive all them boys. Like, please come out to the country and let me show you how things are done out here. But yeah, it's it was just that's what Riverette Democrats does. And then of course I have to do our shameless plug. Who have, of course, our Facebook and our Twitter. And then, and Nick doesn't even live in his district. Don't get me started about the real estate fraud that means. Anyway. So we have a website. Tells a little bit more about us. You can see pictures and learn about the folks that are on the board with me. Real quick, just shout out to those people. Joe Bohr is our vice chair. Jamie Blair is our secretary. Brian Strubig is our treasurer. Ashley Fikowski is our social media, and she does like our kids program. We call it River Kids because you gotta get them when they're young, you know. And then Eric Arvidsson does a lot of our web work and merchandising stuff. And then Alan Addington, who is actually I want to say he was Special Forces. He's our Veterans Affairs. He actually lives in Chicago. We're spread out all over the state. I actually myself very recently visited Illinois. I'm right across the river. So spent my whole life mostly in Missouri, but now I am in what my wonderful boyfriend Nick refers to as East South County. Right across the JB Bridge. But I'm close enough to Missouri that I'll still be there to help fight the good fight with my friends. And so go on the website, buy a t-shirt. That helps us keep gas in the tank so that we can travel all over the state, spread the good word, and help support the folks. One thing I make sure I do is a portion of every sale that we have, I donate a portion of that to Democrats in Missouri that are in office, for Democrats that are running for office. Because we've got to back those people up. So I think I've said about as much as I've got. I guess we can open it up for questions if anybody's got any. I don't know how this stuff works.
I don't have a question. I just want to say that I'm glad that you worked as hard as you do, and you helped answer all my questions I had, last year. And I know I'm probably gonna be asking you more questions, coming up. So, but for all the work that you do, I'm really glad for all the work that you do that a lot of people do.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. And it's one of those things, like, it really is like, learning how state committee works and learning how to get into those seats where you have a say in policies that we back and things like that. I'm very much you have to be willing to share that information. Like, organizations die when you don't bring new blood in. So anything that I've learned on how to get people involved, I am more than happy to share that. I will be honest with you, I don't really accept friend requests on Facebook from people that I haven't met personally, just because we have all like the QAnon crazies. but anybody is welcome to send me a message or message the Facebook or River Rat Democrat page. All of us can reach out. All of us have served or are currently serving on state committees. We've got several county committee chairs that are on our board. Folks that are in there and have been in there for 5 or 6 years now, learning how the sausage is made, and we are not shy with the recipe. Share it with anybody that wants it, and we'll put it to good use. So I appreciate folks like you who reach out and ask, like, hey, I've seen you around. I know you've got some ideas about what's going on. Who do I get in touch with? Or how do I do this? And always do our best to try to connect folks with resources that will help them spread the good word and do the good work. So thanks.
Kathy Merrick has a question.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to ask, what is the most common reason you hear from people as to what they think that a Democrat, socialist, communist is going to try to do that will be really something abhorrent to them, to a lot of people?
I mean, it's always guns and abortion. That's what it always comes down to. I don't really touch abortion with those people because it's one of those things that's just so morally ingrained, so that everybody is so convinced you're right, you're never going to change their mind on that. Where I get people a lot, especially when we can do those, conversations over a game of pool or a beer, is when they start talking about guns, and I can tell them, and I'm a Democrat and I've got guns. Like, I don't want yours. Why would you think that? Well, Obama expanded your gun rights. He's the reason why you can carry in national parks. Here is the box with all of the guns that Obama took from you. It is happen. Fear is a very powerful motivator. And that's what the Republicans have done a really good job of doing, is latching on to these outright lies. It's the same reason why we have legislators who know damn good and well that these laws will not stand up in court, because state law can't override federal law, but they're grandstanding red meat for the people in their district, saying, I'm protecting the Second Amendment right. You don't need to. Do you not think that the Constitution does a good enough job of that? And having conversations with people, because they do, they think it's as scary Democrat is just going to show up and take my guns. No, you would have to repeal a constitutional amendment. And do you have any idea how you do that? It's next to impossible, for good reason. And being able to have conversations, because most of the people that say things like, I'm not voting for a Democrat, they're going to come for my guns, they don't know how hard it actually would be to do that. And being able to, it sounds weird, but reassure them how hard it would be for that to happen, but also reassure them that that's not something that we want to do. I will ask one thing of my fellow Democrat friends. When you're having conversations with people about, gun control, stay away from asking people to get rid of all semi-automatic weapons. Because the vast majority of shotguns and it's not ARs and mass capacity gun. It's literally just, it's bolt action or lever action or semi-automatic. It's literally just how the gun is loaded. It doesn't make it, or magazine capacity is what we can work on. The fact that something is semi-automatic does not make it more inherent. Something that's illegal. And it's okay. Reach out to your redneck Democrat friends like me and learn more about those topics if you're not as comfortable with them. And we can tell you how to talk to people about stuff like that. Because I'm definitely going to reach out to my suburban friends about things that are more prevalent there that I have issues with.
Right. I mean, even that word control is a bad word. Talk about just make it safer to own a gun, safer for
I kind
protecting-
of flip the script on them. Like I'll tell them it's not about gun control. It is literally, these are the things we have to do for me and you, fellow gun owner, to protect our right to have them. Because if we can't keep them out of the hands of crazy people who do these things, what other option are we left with than taking them in mass?
Right.
We don't have any other option. So it's our job as gun owners to support good legislation and groups like Moms Demand Action that push for good legislation that actually protect our right to keep owning guns. And that gets me a lot more traction than you might think. Like, because they're so used to the argument, you know, that it's like, I'm not arguing with you. We're not taking them. I don't want them. Anybody that tells me they want to take mine, I'm going to have the same reaction that these people that are scared of it are going to have. I'm a law-abiding gun owner. There's no reason to come take mine. I'm a law-abiding gun owner. That's why I have no reason not to support legislation that protects my rights as a law-abiding gun owner. So I think that's one where we can do a pretty good job of flipping the script and winning some folks over, or at least sowing some doubt in their mind that the narratives they're being fed about why they can't vote for Democrats might not be as true.
That's great.
Funny
Thank
story,
you.
when I talked to my brother, who is avid NRA, well, he used to be NRA till he figured out where his money was going to buy people suits and cocktails. I just asked him, I said, how do you think they're going to come and take your guns? Tell me how that's going to happen. And I kept, he really didn't have, well, somebody's going to come to the door. Who's going to come to the door? How are they going to find you? Who's going to pay those people to come to your door? I mean, I just got him down a rabbit hole, and he backed up, and I said, so do you think someone's coming for your guns? He goes, well, I guess not. So that works with my brother.
Yeah. So, Al has his hand up, it looks like.
And
yes.
Kyle also, he'll be
Oh,
next.
okay.
Go ahead.
I'm
Sorry, I'll let you say who's next.
I just see Kyle, but is there somebody I missed?
Maybe Kyle then Al.
Okay, let's do Kyle.
We'll flip that. I think Kyle was first.
Sorry, guy.
Hey, sorry, I didn't mean to butt in.
You're supposed to butt in.
Yeah. So hi Holly. I know somebody in the chat asked, Jennifer asked, how you're finding candidates to run in some of these districts. I also work on a couple other groups, one specifically on rural areas, and that's kind of the biggest struggle we found is kind of a lack of people wanting to lead or that are in the right place in their life to run for office. Do you have anything in your experience that you've really found valuable to get people out of their comfort zone and run for office in some of these districts that are completely uncontested?
Yeah. Start small. It's a lot harder to convince somebody to run for state house or state senate than it is to convince them to run for school board or their local fire board or county committee or, county commission. There are ways, a lot of times you can start by getting them involved in the party organization, like getting them to run for county committee. And then you can get them to run for county commission, school board, some of these other just as impactful, if not more so, on the local level, running for those offices. And then you're building your bench. Also collaborating with groups like the House Victory, a lot of the other groups that are out there, trying to find folks that will run. And a lot of times, the biggest thing you can do is be honest with people. Let them know. Well, like Charles can tell you, sometimes you're asking these people to jump headfirst into a wood chipper. And don't lie to them about it. Don't try to BS them about it. Don't try to make them feel warm and fuzzy. A lot of times you really are asking somebody to put themselves out there knowing they're not going to win that seat. But when you're out there being present and being visible in the community and make people feel like they're not all by themselves, they will come find you. I've found that a lot. I get people that approach me from all over that, you know, say, it makes me want to step up. You know, my friend Ashley that ran for state house against a 3-term incumbent person. I was her treasurer, and it was literally, she just got sick and tired of, by God, this man is not getting a $36,000 a year job because he filed a $50 filing fee and nobody ran against him. Some people, it is literally just that they are angry enough about the idea of that person getting that seat by default simply because no one would challenge them. Sometimes, as much as it sucks, some of these areas, that's the best we're going to get, is that there's at least a name on the ballot. But it's a start. So just, you know, like the biggest thing you can do is talk to your neighbors, not be shy about what you stand for. Let them know that if they're willing to step up, you are willing to back them up.
I don't see any more hands raised at this point. Are we missing somebody? I have a question if there's not
Al
someone.
had his hand up earlier.
Yeah, I got a question. It has to do with the out in the rural areas. From what I understand, almost every local radio station, every local newspaper is owned by an extremely conservative person or group of people. And how do you overcome that? I mean, that's just all the media.
Yeah. A good example of that is in the Gasconade County area. Those folks, Gasconade County is one of the reddest counties in the state. Like, I don't think they've ever voted Democrat like in a presidential election ever, even when other places did. But the county committee and the county club there that have gotten off the ground thanks to some really hardworking folks there, they do a really good job of letters to the editor. And the editor of the newspapers there, like you said, the guy that owns it is hardcore right wing. Like, you can see it in the way his editorials read and the way that he reports things. But they will, most of the time, they will print letters to the editor. And I've seen them go back and forth for like multiple weeks in a row where like he would post something and then the Democrat club would send in a letter to like kind of rebut it. And then he would come back the next week and they would engage that way. It's funny because it really, like, in the age of social media and everything being online, people a lot of times forget about things like local newspapers and local radio shows, and just being that person that's willing to engage in those meetings. A lot of times they'll let you in just because they don't have anybody else that'll fill the space. But yeah, that's a good question, and I'm glad that you asked that. And yeah, letters to the editor is a really good thing to do.
I was curious if you are doing anything formal with the Missouri Democratic Party so that you can use the synergy of your ideas with what the Democratic Party in Missouri needs to do.
I mean, I don't know if I would call it formally, but I can't really say that it's not, because what we do is, in addition to trying to find people to run for public office, you know, like state house or county committee or whatever, is also getting people to step up and run for county committee, like party specific infrastructure, so that you have seats at the table. And a state committee in Missouri is 68 governing body of the party in the state. It's 2 people from every senatorial district, and there's 34 of them. So if you figure out how that works and get yourself elected to those seats, like I served 2 terms on state committee. I'm very proud of that. I represented the 6th senatorial, which stretches from Herman to Sedalia, basically. Helped bring back a couple of the county committees that had just kind of died. You letting people know how it works, and this is how you have a say at that level. Really just helping people connect with how to get in those seats where they have a say, and letting them, helping them figure out how to connect with the people that are their voice on those governing bodies. So like in the 6th senatorial district, I represented 7 different counties. So as a state committee woman, I made sure that I went to, or at least, reached out to all of the county committee members to those areas and said, hey, this is what we're working on. You have something you want me to take there. And part of that is too, making sure that you're electing people to those positions that do things like share information with you about what's going on and take your ideas for things back to that, and paying attention to who those people are. And if they're not doing the job, and if they are just, let's be honest, there are people that are do nothing title collectors and like to say, well, I'm the so-and-so of so-and-so. They don't ever share any information and they don't ever get anything done. Stop electing those people there that will listen to you. It's, yeah, like I said, I guess it's formal, because you have to formally, get elected to those seats, but it's building the relationships with the people at the ground levels that have a vote in who those people are at those higher levels of the committee. Just connecting with those people and trying to get as many people in seats. It's no different in the party and trying to get the party to go the direction you want to see it go than it is in government as a whole. It all comes down to a numbers game. Whipping votes is the thing that happens in the party and in the legislature. And just figuring out how to do that and getting it done, and realizing that it is not a sprint. It is not something that's going to happen overnight. It's something that you are going to feel like you have been kicked in the gut and stabbed in the back and all of those awful things that come with working in politics, but you're also going to build some of the best relationships with some of the best people you will ever meet, who will give the shirt off their back and work their fingers to the bone to help get things done. Everything from people like you guys hosting meetings like this to help share the word, to people going out and knocking doors in areas where Democrats haven't gone in 20 years, to there's a million different ways that we can, running for school board and making sure that you have people that believe in science. Setting your kids' school curriculum is a huge, there's lots of places to make a difference, and just building the relationships with people so that they'll listen to you. Should listen to you, won't listen to you, become one of the people that has a say.
I have a question in the chat from Janet Kester. Are there any issues of particular interest to rural people, like CFOs, broadband, education, health, that Democrats could focus on?
All of it. Broadband access is a huge one, because especially with the schools and everybody being online right now, also with people, a lot of people having home-based businesses and being able to compete, they need to be able to do things like sell online. Education, obviously, is a big one. Healthcare is huge. There's a boatload of hospitals that have closed. There are places where if something happens, like if I'm out working cattle, when I was managing the cattle operation, if I get run over by a cow and I'm 45 minutes from the closest emergency room, I'm good as dead, and helping them understand why things like Medicaid help make sure that they can get to the emergency room before they die and not have to drive all the way to Jeff City or Columbia or wherever. What else did she mention?
Let's see.
I can't see.
Education. Education.
Yeah, public education a lot of times in the rural areas is all that there is. And I went to South Callaway in Mocaine, which was a very, very good school. But we got all the tax dollars from the nuclear. So, you know, making sure that kids have a good education so they've got options once they graduate. CAFOs is look into organizations like Missouri Rural Crisis Center that have been fighting that fight since the 80s. You know, and not just CAFOs. You know, learn what that stuff means. But also like country of origin label is another big one. I will tell you, as somebody who managed a cattle operation for 9 years, so like the Cattlemen's Association does not work for cattle producers. They work for the packers. They work for JBS and like Smithfield and all of those big corporate conglomerates. You know, get hooked up with organizations like Organization for Competitive Markets. You know, there's so many people that have positioned themselves as, you know, that they're fighting for rural people or they're fighting for farmers, and they're not. It's just a flat out lie. And having people that are farmers stand up and point that out matters. What were you saying, Charles?
I don't want to interrupt you, but literally just everything you're saying there is exactly what I ran on last year, especially like what Janet was asking about the broadband, education, health. You know, I'm on the Clark County School Board, and I ran it on all those things. And what's funny, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. It doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat. Every single one of those things is going to resonate with somebody. And when I did several ice cream socials this last year, and I brought every one of those up. And especially, like I said, it doesn't matter what side of the table you're on. You bring that up, people are like, huh, well, nobody else really brought this up. Maybe he does or she does want to work on this for us. I think if anybody who's running again brings any of these issues up again and says, this is what I want to focus on, I think it's going to have a lot of people's ears perk up and start listening a lot more, just like what you're talking about. So I think everything Jan said and you're saying is exactly right. And I agree with 100%.
Yeah, I mean, they look a little different in different areas, you know, but clean water, got to have clean water no matter where you live. And if it happens that, you know, my friends in Flint, Michigan don't have clean water because they have bad pipes and lead, but I don't have clean water because I have a hog CAFO that built over the top of a bunch of karst topography. So now all of my groundwater is poisoned. Either way, we can't drink the water, you know. So it's just finding ways to make those connections with people that it may not seem like have a common goal at the beginning, and that goes for Democrats in different areas and people who maybe don't necessarily think they're on the same political spectrum that you are. Yeah, everybody wants their kids to have a good education. Everybody wants to be able to go out and enjoy, you know, taking a breath of fresh air where they live. Find the things that resonate regardless of political party and hammer on those as hard as you can.
We have another question, and probably given the time, it may be the last question from Janet Kester again. You mentioned deep canvassing. What about focus groups? And would there be any value in researching and developing positions for Democratic candidates to emphasize?
I'll be honest with you. I don't know enough about focus groups to really talk about them. To me, it seems like that would be like a hand-picked group of folks that you bring into an area or like bring in to have a meeting with. The hard part about that is not everybody's got the time or the means to show up for something like that. That's what I really like about deep canvassing, is you are going to those people and where they're at and where they're comfortable. Everybody, or not everybody, but I'm sure most folks on this call have at least some experience with canvassing, where a lot of times the goal is basically hit as many houses as you can, take as many hands, hand out as many, you know, flyers about your candidate as you can, and, you know, go. Deep canvassing is different because it really is about drilling down into the things that they're worried about and the reasons behind those and the things that actually affect that. And just like literally having conversations where you're not telling them they're wrong. You're not trying to get them to change their mind. You're just giving them a different perspective to consider, but also you're getting insight for why they look at things the way they do. That to inform your messaging. So I guess focus groups would be a good thing, but for me, where I'm at, it's a lot easier for us to go to those people than it would be for us to bring them. And of course, this is all, you know, not COVID notwithstanding. That just threw a bomb in everything on everything. Those are good questions. Thanks, guys.
Holly, I used to be a congressional staff person for the 4th District of Washington State, which is the Eastern Cascades all the way to the Canadian border and the Oregon border. And it was Jay Inslee, who's now the governor of Washington State. And one of the things he did was we would spend the entire weekend going from county fair to county fair. We never missed one parade. Of course, during the campaign, but also when he'd fly back on a red eye, just coming all the way across the country to come back to go to all those parades every weekend. And we just go from one to the other. And he always carried a sign with him, whether he was campaigning or not. He always carried his Jay Inslee sign with him, big old sign with the 2x2 board attached to it. And he walked through the crowds and people would just come up to him and just talk to him. And if he wasn't there, he was on a street corner somewhere just talking to people. And I think that's what it takes, is you just got to get out there at the grassroots and get out there. And all the county committees should have booths at all these fairs. They need to be there and show up. You got to show up at all those kind of events.
Show up and give a shit. It's the sugar's gospel,
That's
baby.
Right. That's
You
right.
gotta live it. But I'm telling, just like that sign, man. This T-shirt gets me more conversations with people in places that you would never expect. That it's seriously, you're 100% right. Just not being afraid to be present and visible, not shy about, like, have the courage. Hell yes, I'm a Democrat. I know what I stand on, and this is why.
That's right.
And people, I'm telling you, it's insane, the people that you would think would just be, and they're on a completely different, polar opposite of me on the spectrum. I know people that will tell me flat out I'm the only Democrat they'll allow in their house because I'm the only one they know that's actually got the backbone to tell them to go to hell about things. I don't understand it, but it works. So
Great. Well, I think on that note, this has been a really good meeting. We really appreciate that you came to talk to us. And I think we'll just wish everybody a good night. Unless I'm forgetting something, I'll close the meeting.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much. It's really nice to have a chance to, represent rural Missouri and let folks know about Riverette Democrats, and look us up. Check out the website, get you some swag. We're working on sourcing our stuff to make sure that it's American made as much as possible. We've looked into getting it union made. We've also got, like I said, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We've got all the sass. But yeah, just, find people where they are and back them up as much as you can. And, yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to spread the sugar gospel. I appreciate it. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you, Holly. Everybody have a great night.
This was great. Bye, LaDonna.